Yo everybody, it's me, Fitness65 again, just re-uploading, trying to upload this video. Didn't really go through because my camera's tripping right now, but anyhow, this is redoing this video. This is my Royal Rumble 2010 predictions. Now, usually I don't usually do wrestling predictions because I don't like doing them, or I just don't want to do them, but I thought I'd decide to do them. Well, decide to do it just for this one time because the Royal Rumble is going to be next Sunday, and Royal Rumble is one of those special pay-per-views, and you got your favorites and you got everything else, so I decided to do a predictions video just for this one time, and probably I might do a WrestleMania predictions video as well, bringing back my predictions video just for that one time, just for those 2 times or those 3 times with the Elimination Chamber as well. But yeah, Royal Rumble 2010 is shaping up to be one of those. It's shaping up to be a good, decent pay-per-view. It's going to be at least better than TNA's Genesis pay-per-view. That pay-per-view was just awful, and I already know how awful that pay-per-view was because I watched that pay-per-view, and it was just a waste of money. It was a waste of time, and it just was not a good video. It was just not a good show at all from top to bottom. There was only like 2 or 3 good matches on that show, and everything else was just flat, or it just wasn't good. And then they had too many segments, and it just showed that TNA needs to start budgeting, needs to start fixing everything that's wrong, and eliminate what's wrong and fix what, and make everything right by fixing the wrong stuff. But apparently TNA probably won't do that, but that's for another video. So let's get started with this video. There's going to be at least 3 WWE title matches on this pay-per-view. Well, 3 title matches on this pay-per-view, and they might add another match at the last minute, and that match is probably going to be a WWE Divas title, because they've been talking about possibly adding a women's title match on here to sort of add some kind of flow into the card, or get some kind of time filler into the card. So yeah, that match is probably going to be Gail Kim versus Maurice, because let's face it, Gail Kim's going to go over Alicia Fox, and Maurice is going to go over Eve Torres. So I expect that matchup to be at the Royal Rumble, if they're thinking of adding that type of matchup to be like a filler. So this should be a pretty good, decent women's title match. Women's title match. You got Gail Kim, who's a good, decent worker, and she has good matches from time to time. And then you got Maurice, who's improving and has been getting a little bit better. So expect this to be a good Divas matchup. Not the best Divas matchup, but a good, decent Divas matchup for what it is. So in the end, though, I gotta go with Maurice because they got high hopes on Maurice, and it looks like they're going to have a feud with her and Eve Torres, and then possibly Melina and her. So yeah, I see Maurice going over in this matchup. The next matchup is probably going to be the ECW title matchup between Ezekiel Jackson and Christian. Now, the build-up to this matchup has been okay, with Ezekiel Jackson attacking Christian from behind, the two doing a stare down, and then Christian cutting a promo on Ezekiel Jackson, and then William Regal being involved in the mix. And this match should be a good matchup. It's not going to be a bad matchup, but it should be a good matchup because with Christian, the year he's been having, so I expect him to carry Ezekiel Jackson to somewhat of a watchable matchup, because let's face it, Ezekiel Jackson is not a very good worker, and he has been improving, but he's still green, and that's one of the reasons why he's on ECW. But I expect Christian to get a good matchup out of him. But in the end, though, I expect Ezekiel Jackson to go over, because they want to sort of build him on ECW and then sort of get more of the black market, like they're doing with Rey Mysterio with the Latino market. So yeah, I see that with Ezekiel Jackson going over Christian, and then Christian moving on to bigger and better things, like possibly moving to SmackDown, which he should be on, or possibly being in the Money in the Bank matchup, which he was in last year. So yeah, Ezekiel Jackson to be your new ECW champion. The next matchup on here is going to be for the World Heavyweight title matchup between The Undertaker and Rey Mysterio. There's been rumors going on that there's going to be a triple threat matchup, but let's face it, we already know it's going to be a triple threat matchup with Batista's involvement and Rey Mysterio and Undertaker's promo, so I expect this to be a triple threat matchup between the Animal, Batista, the Undertaker, and Rey Mysterio, which should be a good, decent matchup. I mean, even though the Undertaker is having his injury type of problems, I still expect him to bring his A game in this matchup. And you know what you're going to get with Rey Mysterio because of the year he's been having, and he always brings something to a matchup. And when Batista's motivated or he's in there with the right people, he can have a good matchup himself. So yeah, I expect this to be a good triple threat matchup. Not a great triple threat matchup, but a good, decent triple threat matchup. In the end, though, I see Batista going over since, like I said, the Undertaker's having his injury problems and stuff like that. And they probably want to get the belt off of him and have him face whoever they're going to have him face at WrestleMania. So I see Batista being your new World Heavyweight Champion, and which should be a good triple threat matchup between these three men involved in that matchup. The next matchup is going to be for the WWE title matchup between Sheamus and Randy Orton. Now, again, I don't like how the WWE's been building Sheamus as WWE champion. Like, he's sort of been like an afterthought as WWE champion. Like, he's supposed to be the WWE champion, but there's been a lot of people who's been getting more exposure than him. So, and you really can't blame that on him. You got to blame it on the writers, and the creative staff who are just booking Sheamus that way, as he's just not been like how a WWE champion should be, like the main focus of the whole program or the TV show. And then you got Randy Orton coming off of his feud with Kofi Kingston. Really, this should be a good heel versus heel matchup. Love the interaction between the two. And of course, this past Monday, Sheamus attacked Randy Orton, which I see retaliation with Randy Orton attacking Sheamus. So I expect this to be a good heel versus heel matchup. Is it going to be great? No, by no means. But I expect this to be at least a good 3-star, maybe 2.5-star matchup, because I don't see this being a real bad matchup unless the WWE creative staff throw some sort of a curveball into this matchup to make it bad, or they cut this match short or something like that. But I expect this to be a good matchup. Not a great matchup, but a good matchup. And I expect Randy Orton to go over. Even though I want to pick Sheamus, I still have a feeling they're going to have Randy Orton go over and head into WrestleMania to wrestle the two guys who I have a feeling might end up winning the World Rumble. So yeah, Randy Orton to go over Sheamus and become the new WWE champion heading into WrestleMania. Then we go to the World Rumble matchup itself. Now we got a lot of favorites, and then we got a lot of people who might be there for one night only. Just look at what happened last year with Rob Van Dam. He made a surprise appearance at the World Rumble, but he ended up getting eliminated. So WWE sort of teased you on that. And then of course you have legends who might end up showing up, or someone you didn't expect to show up, but it should be a pretty good World Rumble. Hopefully it might be better than last year's World Rumble, but we'll have to wait and see. But I have a list of people who I think might end up winning this World Rumble, and I'm just going to go down on this list. Number 1, I got Kofi Kingston. Again, if Randy Orton goes over Sheamus and wins the title, it will make perfect sense to end their feud over the title by having Kofi Kingston go over at the World Rumble and then have him face Randy Orton for the WWE title to sort of end their feud, and then have Kofi Kingston go over at WrestleMania. That would make perfect sense, but we don't know the way the WWE works. But I still say Kofi Kingston might end up winning. Then you got Edge, who's making his return to the World Rumble, and he could possibly win it because WWE has a knack for having guys who return from injuries win the World Rumble. Just look at what they did with Shawn Michaels in 1996, or look at what they did with when John Cena made his return in 2008, and other guys like that, or Randy Orton. Yeah, so you never know. So yeah, I see Edge possibly winning, John Cena, because it's John Cena, and even though he is out of the title picture, you can never count him out in these type of matches. So yeah, John Cena, John Morrison, even though I still don't see him winning, but there's a possibility he might end up winning. Chris Jericho, because they might have him win it and possibly face the champion as a face or a heel at WrestleMania and possibly win the title there. Triple H, because there's rumors of a Triple H Sheamus matchup. So if Sheamus wins, then they probably might go with the Sheamus Triple H matchup. And then Ted DiBiase Jr. if Randy Orton goes over against Sheamus. Anyhow, rate,